I'm going to explain the economics of last mile telecommunications and why fibre to the node is more cost effective than fibre to the premises. Along this horizontal axis, I'm going to plot the different speeds. So we'll start off down here with dial-up and then with ADSL. So let's say that's 5 to 8 megs. And then we move on to what you can get from fibre to the node. And that's really from there up to, well, let's be conservative and let's say 80 megs. And then further out here, we'll start at 100 megs and, obviously out to a gig. Now, all of those different speeds require different technologies. But before we do that, we've got to look at the vertical axis and think about utility. What is bandwidth worth to you? I mean, bandwidth, line speed, is only valuable insofar as it enables you to do something. Well, nowadays you can't do a lot with dial-up. So if we're plotting utility or value or willingness to pay vertically, that's probably not going to be very high. But then we get to ADSL. Yep, we can do a lot. We can download YouTube videos, we can Skype and so forth. So our value goes up very rapidly. We get up to, say, 25 megs, and we can do quite a lot more, so it continues to go up. But then at some point, it will become flat. Now, where that point is, that's where the marginal utility goes to zero, depends on the individual. It'll be different for a person living alone to a business with 50 employees. It'll be different to a family of 2 to a family with 4 teenagers. But at some point, that marginal utility goes to zero. So for another household, say with a larger household with more needs for bandwidth, it might go up and flatten somewhere else. But at some point, it will flatten. That is to say, that's the point where an additional megabit per second of bandwidth doesn't enable you to do anything that you can't already do, and consequently you're not going to be prepared to pay for it, just for the value of boasting about it. Now here's the problem though. When you look at the cost of deploying these line speeds, it doesn't go up in a nice smooth curve. It goes up in big lumps. So for dial-up, well, that's very little. That's no cost. Then for ADSL, you need to have a DSLAM in the exchange. Let's say that's the cost for that. For fibre to the node, quite a bit more. You've got to run fibre out to the street cabinet and have a street cabinet there. So let's put that up there. It's quite a lot more. So that's fibre to the node. But then fibre to the premises, that is a big deal because you've got to dig up the streets or run cables under the streets. You've got to get the cables into people's houses, and that's a lot of work. As it's famously said, Moore's law does not apply to digging holes. And typically the cost for fibre to the premises is 3 to 4 times this. So we're going to go off the graph, but it is a big, big number. And so you can see the problem. What the problem is that just when the cost of getting additional bandwidth goes through the roof, literally in this case, that is when the marginal utility has generally gone to zero. So you're paying a huge amount of money, extra money, to get additional bandwidth that people won't value because it doesn't enable them to do anything else. So this is where technology comes in. Now, we've recently been trialling fibre to the node and getting just under 100 megs. So that's with VDSL, so that's better technology. So this line can come out like that. It moves out that way. And of course, then when you've got a new technology still, G.fast, which is just a little bit more expensive than this, say up here, it also moves the technology out. Equally, the cost of doing fibre is in some respects coming down. So the critical thing, therefore, in designing a broadband network is getting the balance between the willingness to pay, or the utility, the marginal utility for customers, i.e. how much bandwidth will they value and pay for, and the cost of deploying it. Because the problem is that if you go for fibre to the premises everywhere, which of course was the original plan, you spend an enormous amount of money, tens of $30 billion more than under the current government's our plan. You spend $30 billion more to provision for bandwidth that in most cases people will not value and hence will not pay for. And what that means then is that you've got to spread that cost over everybody, and it makes broadband overall less affordable. So that's the economics of last mile telecom.